Coming up on 5 Minute News. Iranian-made suicide drones strike Ukraine's capital. 8 million people apply for Biden's student loan forgiveness. And Dr. Fauci says long COVID is an insidious public health emergency. It's Tuesday, October 18. I'm Anthony Davis. Dozens of suicide drones struck Ukraine's capital yesterday, setting buildings ablaze, tearing a hole in one of them and sending people scurrying for cover to try to shoot them down in what the president said was Russia's attempt to terrorize civilians. The concentrated use of the kamikaze drones was the second barrage in as many weeks, after months in which air attacks had become a rarity in central Kiev. The assault sowed fear and frayed nerves as blasts rocked the city. Energy facilities were struck and one drone largely collapsed a residential building, killing 4 people. Intense bursts of gunfire rang out as the Iran-supplied Shahed drones buzzed overhead, apparently as soldiers tried to destroy them. Previous Russian airstrikes on Kiev were mostly with missiles. Analysts believe these slower-moving Shahed drones can be programmed to accurately hit certain targets using GPS unless the system fails. Also on Monday, a Russian Su-34 warplane crashed in a residential area in the Russian port of Yakutsk on the Sea of Azov after an engine failure, killing at least 13 people on the ground, injuring 25 others, and starting a fire that engulfed several floors of a 9-story apartment building. Vice Governor of the region, Anna Menkova, said 3 of the victims died when they jumped from the building's upper floors to escape the flames. Both crew members on a training mission bailed out safely. President Joe Biden on Monday officially kicked off the application process for his student debt cancellation program and announced that 8 million borrowers had already applied for loan relief during the federal government's soft launch period over the weekend. He encouraged the tens of millions eligible for potential relief to visit studentaid.gov and touted the application form that the president said would take less than 5 minutes to complete. An early beta launch version of the online form released late Friday handled the early stream of applications without a glitch or any difficulty, Biden said. The president called his program a game changer for millions of Americans saddled with student loan debt. The number of borrowers who applied during the testing period already amounts to more than 1/4 of the total number of applicants the administration had projected would submit forms, underscoring the popularity of the program and the eagerness of borrowers to receive the debt relief. Some 8 million borrowers who have income information already on file with the Education Department would see their debt cancelled without applying. Biden's plan calls for $10,000 in federal student debt cancellation for those with incomes below $125,000 a year or households that make less than $250,000 a year. Those who received federal Pell Grants to attend college are eligible for an additional $10,000. The plan makes 20 million eligible to get their federal student debt erased entirely. America's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, has warned against prematurely declaring victory over the pandemic, not only due to short-term needs, but because long COVID represents an insidious public health emergency for millions of people. In an interview with The Guardian, Fauci urged U.S. Congress to avoid complacency and resume funding to combat the virus as well as long COVID, a chronic and prolonged illness that continues to elude scientists and healthcare providers. It's a very insidious, beneath-the-radar screen public health emergency, Fauci said. It isn't that you have people who are hospitalized or dying, but their function is being considerably impaired. For reasons that are obvious, that doesn't attract as much attention as a death rate. The cold fact that COVID-19 still kills 400 people a day in the US catches public attention more acutely than estimates of the millions suffering from long COVID, Fauci added. The World Health Organization believes that between 10 and 20% of COVID-19 survivors have been left with lasting symptoms, including breathlessness, fatigue, and cognitive dysfunction that can persist long after the acute infection has resolved. Between 7.5 and 23 million Americans are estimated to have developed long COVID. More than 1 million people could be out of the workforce at any given time, resulting in a loss of more than $50 billion in income. There is no test for long COVID, its precise causes remain mysterious, and little is known about how it interacts with other medical and physical conditions. Less predictably, several studies indicate that long COVID is more common among women than men. Noting that diseases such as lupus have a similar gender bias, Fauci speculates that some aspect of dysregulation of the immune system is more common in women than in men. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.